Imagine a land teeming with diverse biomes, each with its own unique style and appearance, from lush jungles to snowy tundras, scorching deserts to dark, foreboding swamps. The world of Minecraft Survival offers a truly breathtaking range of environments to explore. The beauty of Minecraft is that you can make it your own. With a custom path for each biome, you can create a world that is truly yours and totally unique. I'm going to show you how. Don't you go anywhere. Let's not mess about with this one. I want to help you make your Minecraft survival world look epic with just a few little finishing touches. When you move about your world, you want to make sure that it looks good at every step. You need some paths, but they have to make sense. So let me show you some ideas on how to make them across a range of different biomes. So let's start obvious and easy, the plains biome. Now, I appreciate that out in the wilderness, paths are going to be minimal, but an occasional path block with coarse dirt, even with the odd lit fence post, can guide your way. And don't forget your bushes. And as you get closer to one of your settlements, you can expand on that path too. More path blocks, coarse dirt, and even rooted dirt, more regular fence posts, and potentially more bushes. Although depending on your build, you might want fewer bushes. And when you meet rises in the ground, stick in a slab. It just makes for an easier passage. And then, as you approach your base or a village, mix in some gravel and some packed mud. And widen your fences to make it look more maintained. And then, when you really want to make it look like it's been constructed, place in blocks like andesite, mud brick and stone bricks. And add in more cultivated bushes like flowering azalea and even some occasional too high flowering plants. Leave in the occasional path block. That will keep it looking rustic and avoid it looking too much like a road. So this is a great palette for you to use to switch around with your Minecraft plains paths, whether they're really simple or more constructed. But what if it's not a plains? Let's pop over to the Savannah. The Savannah is very plains-like, so your wilderness paths wouldn't really be much different from the plains version. I'd use acacia fence posts because of all the acacia trees, and I'd leave in much more grass and put fewer bushes around. And as this path develops, I'd bring in more path blocks, the same as the plains, but what I would do differently is bring in more grey, in the shape of gravel. The Savannah is a dry plain, so you want something that looks quite dried up, and the gravel really gives that effect. You can increase the number of fence posts with lights, but don't increase the bushes too much. Plants in the Savannah are really fairly limited to acacia trees and grass. Bushes can be there, but not as many as there would be in the plains. As you get closer to settlements and structures, bring in some more textured greys such as cobblestone and tuff. That will differentiate from the browns of the path and the dirt. And perhaps bring in some individual andesite wall blocks just to offset from the acacia fences. And they can act as milestones or points of lore in your world. And then, at its most developed, bring in some acacia blocks to give it some complementary colour, and maybe some moss blocks as an occasional side trim to almost define the path as it winds its way into your town or base. So you can see your established Savannah path should be a little bit less constructed than the one you've done in your plains. And this is because the Savannah is just more of a wilderness, so it won't be as developed. So this palette is just great for your Savannah biome path. But there are other biomes that are perhaps a little bit trickier to path through. Let's go and have a look at them. The Mesa is a really popular biome, but being able to path through it is difficult. Because of the terracotta, the land looks very flat and untextured, so building a path through it that makes sense is quite tricky. And the colours can change literally any minute. Plus, it's a desert, so you got to keep that in mind too. So for the wilderness path, don't do anything more than a breadcrumb trail of coarse dirt with the occasional lamp on a fence. And I definitely use spruce fence. It's dark enough without being too dark. And what's great about desert biomes is oak leaves are a little bit brown in here. So if you use just a few, you get like a tumbleweed effect, which is perfect. Unlike spruce leaves, which are way too green and would look out of place. And the tricky thing about the Mesa is path blocks are not actually going to be a thing, because there isn't really any dirt that you can use the path blocks on. Yeah, I know there's some coarse dirt from time to time, but mostly it's terracotta. So we need another block that's going to differentiate like a path block would. And something that does that beautifully is mud. A mixture of mud blocks and packed mud blocks. The mud block really contrasts against almost every terracotta block you could be able to roll over the yellows, the whites, the standard terracotta. It really stands out. And then you've got the packed mud, which is so complementary to the standard terracotta and yet stands out against most of the others. They're the perfect combination for this. So add some extra fence posts with lamps on, put in a few more of your oak leaves and then thread in mud and packed mud blocks. It's going to look great for the next stage of your path. And then when you get nearer your settlement or maybe your Mesa town, like this one which I did a tutorial for just a little while ago, the link is down in the description. Keep that darker theme going with some cobbled deep slate, and also if you can afford it, and it is the most common ore in the game, and if you have a silk touch pick, add in some coal ore for a really gorgeous texture, and it really works with all of those other blocks. So this one really does have a super simple palette. So that's one of the Minecraft desert biomes. What about the actual desert? Let's have a look at that. And being made up of pretty much just sand, the desert is a really tough one. We can't really use dirt or coarse dirt at all because, well, frankly, there isn't any dirt around here, is there? It's just sand. In reality, sand in the wilderness will be moving around all the time and covering up your path. So don't use any path blocks for this first stage. Just have some fence posts. If you can find it, jungle wood is definitely the best to use here. And guide yourself just using those. And as you get closer to a base or a structure, maybe change it up with a little bit of andesite, and if you can find it, some red sandstone. The andesite is really complementary to the yellow of the sand, and the red sandstone contrasts beautifully whilst keeping that desert feel. Increasing the fence frequency, the amount of red sandstone, and adding in some cobblestone for some complementary texture gives our penultimate level with an occasional jungle plank to break up that grey. And the final constructed level is dead simple too. We need to find a block that complements with the red sandstone and also the yellow sand. And really, there's only one block I can think of, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's granite. Add in the granite blocks, you don't need loads of them, with a few more jungle planks too. Line the path with cactus, and it's perfect for our final stage. So this really simple palette can transform your desert journey. But I've still got one more biome for you to think about. Let's pop over there now. And that is the Taiga forest biome. And you could change this up to any other forest biome just by fiddling around with the palette a little bit. 1 or 2 block changes will probably make all the difference. And with pretty much any forest biome, I would start the wilderness path with just the odd path block and a little bit of coarse dirt and an occasional lamppost. And by that, I just mean a fence post with a lantern on it. Now, I always get lost in the forests. Who am I kidding? I get lost in every biome, even sometimes in just a single chunk. So even having just a basic path is a massive plus. For our next stage, we're bringing in a little bit more structure. Add in some extra path and some more coarse dirt blocks. And then add some mossy cobble. It makes sense. It's a forest. There's going to be moss. I've also increased the fences and added azalea leaves, flowering and normal. Our second from last stage is looking quite substantial with mossy stone brick, mud brick and moss blocks added to give a path that looks quite natural and still very alive. And for our final, most constructed stage that we put right next to a structure, we need to do a little bit more work because we wouldn't have all of these trees waiting for something to jump on us from behind them. So I'm going to clear us some space and do the final version. The result is probably the most complex path of all of them. The extra stone brick and cobble, moss carpet to give it height, along with some buttons to act as little stones. We've also got some stone slab trim, plus a lot more greenery and plants around the side from bone mealing and 2 high flowers. So there's a much more complex palette for a much more complex path, but it's worth it because I really do like this one. So that is 4 stages of paths across 5 different biomes, which I make 20 different custom paths for your Minecraft survival world. If there are any other biomes that you'd really like to see a custom path for, let me know in the comments below and I'll see if I'll do another video on it. If there's enough interest, I'll definitely do that for you. A good path makes such a difference to your Minecraft world. I can't wait to hear what you've done with it, and I'll look forward to seeing you in another video. You take it easy now. Bye!